Welcome to a deep dive. Today, we're looking at a stack of sources, but really focusing in on one particular piece about something, well, universal love. It's a topic that, hits everyone differently, highs, lows, all of it.
And the source we're exploring today gives us a really intimate perspective on that. It's a personal story from a piece called Life Unpacked, Episode 6, Love.
A personal narrative, yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of source gives us a unique window, doesn't it, into this sort of felt reality of love, which can sometimes get a bit abstract when we just talk about it in general terms.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack this source, pull out the key observations, the emotional resonance, basically see what we can learn about love's complexities from one person's specific journey.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's dive in. The piece starts right off the bat describing falling in love as, well, a roller coaster.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common metaphor, but it really works here. It captures that duality. You've got those amazing highs, the pure happiness, the excitement, passion, that feeling of hope,
The good stuff. The reason you get on the ride.
Exactly. But, like the source points out, the ticket also covers the drops. The vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
The anxiety that can just creep in. Sometimes jealousy, fear, even just confusion.
Total confusion.
And it frames it as this trial and error thing, a ride everyone takes with the thrills and the stomach-lurching moments.
It acknowledges it's not easy, that there's a learning curve involved.
And that setup, that idea of love's dual nature, it perfectly tees up the personal story that follows.
Which starts with meeting Diane. The author was doing a master's degree at uni. She was an undergrad.
Okay.
They were living in some kind of community apartment setup, hit it off really fast, and boom, they were a couple pretty quick.
Right, that instant connection. And it leads to a pretty big step, doesn't it? Deciding to travel together.
A huge step to Europe, France, and Italy.
Wow. And the source mentions a key detail here about their experience levels, right?
Yeah, quite a contrast. The author was nearly bilingual in French, had been to Paris before, several times actually. But Diane, she'd never been outside the country, ever, and spoke zero French.
Ooh, okay. That immediately sets up a dynamic, doesn't it? A reliance, maybe even a vulnerability for Diane, stepping into the unknown.
Totally dependent on the author. And yeah, that vulnerability gets tested, like almost immediately when they land in Paris.
Tested feels like an understatement from how the source describes it.
Oh, completely. The piece literally says the trip started in Paris and nearly ended there.
Yikes.
They arrive and they're heading straight for Ile de la Cité on the metro. Want to see Notre Dame, This was before the fire, obviously.
Got it. So the metro.
Yeah, and it's rush hour. The description is vivid tunnels, packed, platform jammed. The author mentions Diane was nervous, holding on tight.
Understandable.
And the author actually kind of liked that, feeling needed, protective.
Okay, so there's that dynamic playing out.
But then the train arrives. People pour off, then the mad rush to get on. Diane's just ahead.
Oh.
They get separated in the crush. She gets swept onto the train.
No.
And the door alarm starts blaring.
Oh, that sound, that sinking feeling.
He sees her turn, looking for him, and then the doors just slam shut. She's inside. He's still on the platform.
Oh, my God. Alone on the train.
Yeah. And the piece describes the look on her face through the window, just sheer terror.
I can only imagine.
He yells, "Elle de la Cité!" trying to give her the destination, but it's useless. The train's moving. It's gone.
And she doesn't know the hotel, doesn't speak the language.
Nothing. Doesn't know where they are, where they're going next. No cell phones back then, remember. Just completely cut off in Paris rush hour.
That is terrifying. Pure panic. What did he do?
Well, his mind's racing, right? The plan. Check the very next stop, just in case she somehow managed to jump off.
Okay, logical first step.
Then straight to Ile de la Cité, just praying she figures it out or someone heard him yell the stop name.
A desperate hope, really.
Yeah.
So does he find her there?
He gets there eventually, takes the next train, checks that first stop. Nope, she's not there. Then rides all the way to Ile de la Cité, walks onto the platform, heart pounding, scanning everywhere. And she is there, standing by a poster for Notre Dame, looking tense, scanning every face coming off the train.
Oh, thank goodness. The relief must have been immense.
You'd think that's what the author expected, like a running hug, tears, oh, thank God kind of thing.
Right.
But her actual reaction was, not that.
Oh,
She walks up, gives him a really hard punch on the shoulder, and just launches into this tirade, blaming him entirely for them getting separated.
Wow. Okay. Fear flipping straight into anger. That's
Not
intense.
totally. The source notes he tried to reason with her, but she was just over the edge,
Yeah.
completely irrational in that moment.
The stress probably just short-circuited everything.
Yeah. So the immediate solution was just find a cafe, get some wine, try to calm things down.
Damage control.
Big time. And this whole incident, it really hit the relationship hard. The piece reflects that, whatever love was there before Paris, it felt like a lot of it got swept away with that metro train.
That's heavy.
Things were apparently so bad, they actually talked about just ditching the rest of the trip and going home.
Seriously?
Yeah. Diane didn't speak to him for 2 whole days afterwards. They, survived it, but the air was just thick,
It shows how one really bad event can just shake everything, especially early on. So they stayed in Paris for about a week after that.
Yeah, dealing with the fallout. Then they took the train to Venice.
Ah, hedonism. The source calls it the most romantic city in the world, right?
It does. Quite the shift in scenery after the Paris drama.
But was the mood romantic? The source says things were uncertain still.
Very uncertain. On the surface, things were kind of back to normal, but the author writes they weren't sure how they felt about Diane anymore, and definitely had no clue how she felt about them.
Awkward.
Totally. They basically agreed to just not talk about the relationship's future until they got home, put a pin in it.
So, still on shaky ground, even in Venice.
Very shaky. But then, something happens in Venice. A really quiet, unexpected moment that the author says kind of stands out above everything else.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's late, after a long day. Diane's taking a shower. The author is already in bed, kind of drifting off.
Mm-hmm.
The source describes the room. Big window, looking out onto a canal, soft light, curtains moving in the breeze. Authors lying on their side, facing the window.
Setting the scene.
Yeah.
Very atmospheric.
Yeah. So Diane finishes her shower, gets into bed. She props herself up on her elbow and just watches the author for a bit. Clearly thinks they're asleep.
Okay.
And then, really quietly, almost a whisper, she says, "I love you."
Wow. Out of the blue after all that tension.
Exactly. And the author's reaction is, well, nothing. No outward reaction.
They didn't let on they heard.
Nope. Kept her eyes closed, didn't move. Just let the words wash over them. The piece describes this feeling of overwhelming warmth, this deep satisfaction, like it felt profoundly right, like being truly loved.
It's quite a moment,
Yeah.
choosing not to respond, just to absorb it.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is the author says they never told Diane they heard her say it.
Never.
Never. And Diane never said it again. Not
Yeah.
like that anyway.
Huh. And the relationship eventually ended.
It did, yeah. Though they stayed friends, which is something. But the author reflects, years later, after hearing "I love you," plenty of other times from other people. Only that one time, hearing Diane whisper it when she thought they were asleep, only that felt completely, truly sincere. Like she was, quote, sharing a deep secret.
Wow. That says a lot about sincerity and vulnerability, doesn't it? How hard it can be to say it and really mean it, really convey it.
Totally. The context, the quietness, the perceived secrecy, it all made it feel incredibly genuine.
It really highlights the gap between just saying the words and actually feeling that deep connection.
Yeah. And this whole experience leads the author to suggest this kind of, experiment idea. Like imagine looking someone right in the eyes and just asking simply, "Do you love me?" and just waiting for a yes or no.
Okay.
The point isn't really the word itself, but what you sense behind it. In their eyes, their tone. Can you feel the sincerity?
Right. It's about trying to gauge that authenticity, recognizing that love feels strongest when it's mutually acknowledged, whether that's explicit, like the whisper, or shown through actions.
And that's the next big point. The source hammers home.
Yeah.
Actions. If you say you love someone, you've got to back it up.
Absolutely. Show it.
Yeah, show it consistently. In, as the source puts it, 1,000 little ways that life affords you. Every day.
Mm-hmm. The words can open the door, but it's those daily acts, the care, the support, just being present that really build and sustain the feeling. You're the proof.
Exactly, the tangible evidence. And the final thought in the piece kind of loops back to that Venice moment. It's quite striking.
What's the final piece of advice?
It's basically, if you feel that powerful urge to tell someone you love them, especially if you think they might be asleep, maybe you should wake them up.
Interesting. Turn the secret into something shared.
Yeah. The idea is that love is better appreciated, more valuable when it's out in the open, not kept hidden, even if sharing feels vulnerable or might disrupt a peaceful moment.
That definitely challenges the instinct to sometimes keep those deep feelings private. It suggests the value of mutual awareness outweighs the potential awkwardness.
For sure. So, okay. We've really dug into this personal story. We've seen the roller coaster, right? The highs and lows.
Definitely.
Navigated that intense metro incident in Paris.
Stressful just hearing about it.
Felt that quiet vulnerability in the Venice room and thought about what makes I love you sincere, the words and the actions.
Yeah. The key takeaways feel quite clear. Love is complicated, brings challenges, no doubt. But that sincere expression, whether spoken or shown, is incredibly powerful. And that mutual acknowledgement really matters. Actions back up the words. It's not meant to be a secret, ultimately.
Exactly. And that leaves us, and you listening, with something to maybe mull over, this idea that love isn't meant to be kept secret, that actions should amplify words. What does that actually look like for you?
Yeah.
Are there quiet moments or unexpressed feelings in your own life that maybe, just maybe, are waiting to be shared?
It's a powerful thought to end on.
Indeed it is. And that wraps up this deep dive into one person's journey through love.